Attackers thought virgin woman was easy prey, but the most feared Mafia boss did this. A quiet violin tutor takes a shortcut. 3 men close in. Then the city's most feared Mafia boss steps from the dark and ends it in seconds. He leaves a coat, a number, a promise. You're safe. With me. But safety has a price. A dead bird on a doorstep. A gunfire storm outside a penthouse. Steel shutters slam. The protector doesn't just guard her, he moves her into his world. Then comes the twist. A secret ledger tied to her late father, and a friendly neighbor who isn't so friendly. A video appears, cut to make the rescue look like a trap. Who staged it? Why her? As streets lock down and enemies circle, the only way out is through him. He's lethal to everyone, tender only to her. But tenderness can burn. When the truth hits and bullets fly, is this rescue the trap that ruins her, or the one move that saves them both? The mist clings to Lily's skin as she huddles in the back of the bus, her violin case pressed tight against her chest. Dante's coat drowns her small frame, the expensive wool still radiating his warmth and a trace of sandalwood. Her fingers trace the edge of the black business card, its embossed letters catching the fluorescent bus lights. Just a phone number, no name, but she knows exactly who he is. Her hands won't stop shaking. The memory of the bow being ripped from her case plays on repeat, along with the sound of breaking bones and those efficiently brutal movements. The way Dante had moved was like a dance, but one designed to destroy. Yet when he'd approached her, his hands had been gentle, checking her wrists with the precision of someone used to gauging damage. The bus lurches around a corner, and Lily clutches the violin case tighter. Her phone buzzes. Mia, probably worried sick. The battery indicator flashes 4% as she types out a quick, "I'm okay, almost home," with trembling fingers. She can still feel the ghost of Dante's touch as he'd wrapped his coat around her shoulders. His voice had been soft but absolute. "You're safe. With me." The words echo in her mind, dangerous and seductive. She's heard the whispers about Dante Valente, the man who rules the city's shadows, the kind of man who makes problems in people disappear. The tea in her thermos has gone cold, but she takes a sip anyway, desperate for something normal to ground her. The liquid catches in her throat as the bus hits another bump. Through the foggy window, streetlights blur into streaks of orange in the rain. She doesn't notice the motorcycle keeping pace 3 cars back. Her mind drifts to the controlled fury in Dante's eyes when he'd seen her cornered, the way he'd ensured medical attention for the man he'd just brutalized. A paradox wrapped in an expensive suit, dealing out violence and mercy in the same breath. The violin strings hum softly as the bus rattles over train tracks. Lily's fingers find the familiar scratches. On her case, tracing the worn spots like worry beads. She should be more frightened. She should throw away his card and forget this night ever happened. Instead, she slips it into her wallet behind her bus pass, telling herself it's just a precaution. The woman across the aisle gives her an odd look, probably wondering why someone in a designer coat is taking the late bus. Lily burrows deeper into the wool, inhaling that trace of sandalwood again. Her heart still races, but now it's not just from fear. She remembers the precise way he'd kicked the knife from her attacker's hand, the economy of movement speaking to years of training, the same precision she uses to adjust a student's bow grip, but turned to devastating effect. His words to the driver about the doctor had been clipped, commanding, a man accustomed to immediate obedience. The bus passes the all-night diner where she sometimes grades papers. The neon sign casts pink reflections on the wet sidewalk, and for a moment she catches a glimpse of her pale face in the window. There's a smudge of dirt on her cheek from when she'd stumbled against the alley wall. She wipes it away with the cuff of Dante's coat. Her phone dies with a sad little chime. Lily stares at the black screen, feeling suddenly more alone. The card in her wallet seems to burn with possibility. One phone call, and she suspects Dante Valente would move heaven and earth to reach her. The thought should terrify her. Instead, it sends an unexpected thrill down her spine. The violin case holds her most precious possession, a 100-year-old instrument that's been her constant companion since her father died. The bow those men had grabbed so carelessly represents countless hours of practice, of teaching, of building a life note by note. Dante had retrieved it himself, checking it for damage before returning it with surprising knowledge about proper handling. Another passenger boards, bringing a gust of wet air. Lily shivers, remembering the cold press of brick against her back in the alley. The contrast of that memory with the warmth of Dante's coat makes her breath catch. She should be planning how to avoid ever seeing him again. Instead, she's remembering the grace of his movements, the intensity of his focus when he'd checked her for injuries. The bus announces her stop is next. Lily gathers her things, suddenly aware of how exposed she'll be walking the 2 blocks to her apartment. The mist has turned to proper rain now, drumming against the windows. She buttons Dante's coat, knowing she'll have to figure out how to return it. The thought brings equal measures of anticipation and dread. Standing by the back door, she watches the wet streets slide by. Her fingers find the card in her wallet again, tracing the embossed numbers. "You're safe. With me." The words replay in her mind, and she knows with crushing certainty that she's already caught in Dante Valente's orbit. Whether she uses his number or not, nothing will ever be the same. Lily's keys jingled against the doorframe as her trembling hands struggled with the lock. Once inside her apartment, she pressed her back against the door and slid the chain into place, then checked it again and again. The familiar confines of her small apartment felt different tonight. Shadows longer, corners darker. Her violin case went to its usual spot beside the upright piano, but she couldn't bring herself to unpack it yet. Not with dirt from the alley still under her fingernails. Steam filled the bathroom as she cranked the shower as hot as it would go. She avoided her reflection in the mirror, not ready to see fear in her own eyes. The expensive wool coat, his coat, hung heavy on the back of her door. Even here, Dante's presence lingered in its faint sandalwood scent. Under the scalding spray, Lily scrubbed until her skin turned pink, but couldn't wash away the memory of rough hands grabbing her bow, of cruel laughter echoing off brick walls. She kept seeing Dante's fluid movements, the precision of his violence, the way he'd checked her wrists so carefully afterward. The contrast made her head spin. Wrapped in her old terry cloth robe, she put the kettle on for tea. Her usual chamomile routine felt like going through the motions, but she needed something normal to cling to. The water was just beginning to steam when 3 soft knocks broke the silence. Lily froze, her heart hammering. Through the peephole, she saw a woman in scrubs flanked by 2 men in dark suits. They stood with the stillness of statues, hands visible and empty. "Miss Voss?" The woman's voice was professional, calm. "Mr. Valente sent us to check on you and upgrade your security. I'm Dr. Chen." Lily's hand hovered over the chain. "How do I know you're really from him?" "You have his coat, black cashmere, sandalwood cologne. He noticed bruising on your right wrist when he helped you in the alley." The details checked out. Lily opened the door but kept the chain on. Dr. Chen showed proper ID while the suit scanned the hallway with practiced efficiency. Once inside, they moved with quiet purpose. Dr. Chen examined Lily's wrists and the scrape on her cheek, applying antiseptic and arnica gel from her medical bag. Meanwhile, the suits installed a heavy-duty chain lock and reinforced strike plate, their tools barely making a sound. "Mr. Valente wants you to have these," Dr. Chen said, placing a small first aid kit and a basic flip phone on the coffee table. "The phone has 1 number programmed, his private line. He says to use it if you feel unsafe, day or night." Lily stared at the items. "I appreciate the help, but I can't accept—" "He doesn't leave debts unpaid," one of the suits said quietly. It wasn't a threat, just a simple fact. "The phone is untraceable, safer than your regular cell." They left as discreetly as they'd arrived, leaving Lily alone with her cooling tea and racing thoughts. The TV provided background noise as she curled up on the couch, too wired to sleep, but too exhausted to move to her bed. The local news droned on about city council meetings and weather forecasts, normal things that felt surreal after the night's events. She dozed fitfully, jerking awake at every car horn or slamming door. The burner phone sat on her coffee table like a black hole, drawing her attention no matter where she looked. Dawn crept in with gray fingers of light when Lily finally gave up on real sleep. Still wrapped in her robe, she opened her door to retrieve the morning paper and found a dead pigeon instead. Its gray feathers were matted with blood, its neck bound with something familiar. Her spare bowstring, the one that had been in her violin case. The note beneath it made her stomach lurch. "Pretty girl belongs to the street." Block letters, pressed hard enough to tear the paper. Lily slammed the door shut, hands shaking as she dialed the police. The desk sergeant's voice was bored, bureaucratic. "We can take a report, but we're short-staffed this morning. No patrols available for a dead bird, miss. Maybe ask your super to clean it up?" She hung up, anger mixing with fear. Through her window, she saw the same motorcycle from last night, idling across the street. The rider's face was hidden behind a dark visor, but she felt his stare like ice down her spine. The burner phone seemed to mock her pride. She'd promised herself she wouldn't use it, wouldn't let herself get pulled deeper into Dante's dangerous world. But as brake lights flared and the motorcycle's engine revved, survival instinct won over principle. Her fingers trembled as she typed, "It's Lily. I need help." The response was immediate, not in words, but in action. Within minutes, a black sedan ghosted to the curb, its tinted windows reflecting the rising sun. Through her peephole, Lily watched the motorcycle rider suddenly kick his stand down and walk quickly to his bike. The sedan's mere presence was enough to send him speeding away. She sank to the floor, back against the door, the burner phone clutched to her chest. The sedan remained outside, a silent guardian. Dante's world might be dangerous, but right now it felt safer than her own. The dead pigeon still lay on her welcome mat, a reminder that sometimes the devil you know is better than the one hunting you in the shadows. Morning sun painted long shadows across the hallway as footsteps echoed up the stairwell. Lily peered through the peephole again, her breath catching at the sight of Dante himself ascending the stairs, flanked by two men in dark suits. His presence filled the narrow space, shoulders nearly brushing the walls. She opened the door before he could knock. Dante's eyes swept over her, cataloging details with military precision before focusing on the dead pigeon. "May I come in?" His voice was quiet but carried an edge of steel. When she nodded, he gestured for one man to stay in the hall while the other followed him inside. Dante crouched to examine. The bird, his expensive suit creasing as he lifted the note with a pen from his pocket. His jaw tightened at the bowstring around the pigeon's neck. Marcus, full sweep of the building. Every floor, every exit. The order was calm but absolute. The security man disappeared without a word. Standing, Dante turned to Lily. "Pack what you need. You're coming to my penthouse until the streets cool." "What? No, I can't." "They're using you to draw me out." He stepped closer, not touching her but radiating protective intensity. "I won't leave you as an easy target. I have classes to teach, responsibilities." "Miss Voss." His voice softened. "Lily, please." A crackle from his earpiece interrupted them. "Sir, backdoor lock's been tampered with. Security footage shows the motorcycle making rounds every 30 minutes. Color drained from Lily's face. Dante waited, letting the reality sink in. "I have conditions," she said finally. "I keep my phone, my job, my independence. I'm not becoming a prisoner." Something like respect flickered in his eyes. "Agreed. Your safety doesn't require your captivity." To her surprise, Dante helped her pack himself. He handled her violin with unexpected reverence, wrapping it carefully in its case. She gathered 2 dresses, basic toiletries, her father's photograph from the nightstand. When she reached for her sheet music, Dante was already collecting the scattered pages. "You know how to handle sheet music," she observed, watching him align the corners precisely. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "I restore violins, old ones, damaged ones. It's therapeutic." The admission seemed to surprise him as much as her. In the quiet moment that followed, she saw past his dangerous exterior to something more complex. The drive to his penthouse was silent but not uncomfortable. Dante's security team formed a protective convoy, 2 cars ahead and behind. He sat beside her rather than across, close enough that she felt the warmth radiating from his body. "The workshop is in the basement of my private gallery," he said suddenly, as if continuing their earlier conversation. 17 instruments right now, waiting to be brought back to life. Each one has a story. Lily recognized his attempt to distract her from her fear, and something in her chest loosened slightly. "Why violins?" "Because breaking is easy. Restoration takes patience, skill, dedication." He glanced at her. "Some things deserve to be saved." The penthouse occupied the top 2 floors of a heavily secured building. A woman in her 50s met them in the private elevator lobby, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. "Miss Voss, I'm Teresa. I manage the household." Her handshake was warm but professional. "Let me show you your suite." The guest room was larger than Lily's entire apartment, decorated in soft grays and blues. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city, specially treated glass, gleaming with a subtle security tint. "You control the only key," Dante explained, indicating an electronic fob on the bedside table. "The panic button connects directly to security and me. There's a reinforced stairwell behind that panel." He pointed to a seemingly solid wall section with exits on multiple floors. "How many people have access to this floor?" Lily asked, taking in the security cameras discreetly mounted in corners. "Besides us, only Teresa and 4 vetted staff. No outside visitors without thorough screening and my explicit approval." Lily picked up the panic button, its weight solid in her palm. "How do I know it works?" "Press it," Teresa encouraged. The response team should. The distant ding of the service elevator cut her off. But instead of security personnel, the sound that followed was unmistakable. The thunderous rattle of automatic weapons fire from street level, echoing up the building's facade. Down! Dante's command cracked through the air as he lunged toward Lily. The panic button slipped from her fingers as the world tilted sideways, Dante's body covering hers as they hit the carpet. More gunfire erupted below, closer this time, accompanied by the screech of tires and shouting voices. Teresa was already at the hidden panel, fingers flying over a keypad as alarms began to blare throughout the building. Dante's weight pressed Lily into the plush carpet, one hand cradling her head while the other reached for his weapon. The sounds of chaos rose from the street below, but in that moment, all Lily could focus on was Dante's heartbeat against her back, steady despite the violence erupting around them. His breath ghosted warm against her ear as he listened to reports coming through his earpiece. His body, a shield between her and whatever threat had followed them home. The world plunged into darkness as steel shutters descended with a metallic hiss, sealing out the chaos below. Emergency lights flickered to life, casting eerie blue shadows across the penthouse's marble floors. Dante's grip was iron strong as he maneuvered Lily behind a thick column, his body pressing her against the cool stone. Gunfire continued to pepper the building's facade. Through a protected balcony opening, Dante's security team returned fire in controlled bursts, their movements precise and practiced. Breathe, Dante murmured against her ear, his voice steady despite the violence. Match my count, in for 4, out for 4. His chest expanded against her back, demonstrating. When I say move, we go left. 3 steps to the panic room, ready? Lily nodded, her fingers clutching his sleeve. The shooting intensified, then suddenly ceased, leaving an unnatural quiet broken only by distant sirens. Now! They moved as one, Dante keeping his body between her and the windows. The panic room door whispered open on hydraulics, revealing a space that looked more like a luxury bunker than a closet. Monitors lined one wall, showing feeds from every angle of the building. A kitchenette held bottled water and non-perishables. Medical supplies were neatly arranged on steel shelves, alongside backup communications equipment. You've done this before, Lily said, watching Dante check the room's systems with practiced efficiency. Not often enough to be comfortable. He tapped a monitor showing the street below, but enough to be prepared. On the screen, security footage rewound to moments before the attack. A familiar motorcycle appeared, its rider pointing what looked like a phone at the building. But the angle was too practiced, the movements too deliberate. He was mapping entry points, Dante explained, his jaw tight. Coordinating with the shooters. Lily sank into a leather chair, reality settling heavy on her shoulders. This isn't temporary, is it? I can't just go back to my life when things cool down. No. Dante met her eyes directly. Walking away now would be suicide. They've made you a target to get to me. Outside, Dante's men moved with military precision, securing a 4-block radius. Phones buzzed with updates, traffic diverted, power strategically cut to certain buildings, security teams deploying to rooftops. A police liaison called, his voice tinny through the speakers. The neighborhood's gone dark, Valente. We're getting complaints. Dante ignored the call, focusing instead on Lily. She had drawn her knees to her chest, making herself small in the oversized chair. Without a word, he moved to the kitchenette. The familiar ritual of tea-making seemed incongruous in the fortified space. Dante measured loose leaves precisely, added a splash of milk first, exactly as she took it. His hands were steady until the moment he passed her the cup, when his fingers brushed her cheek, trembling just once before he pulled away. Hours passed. The adrenaline crash left Lily exhausted, but unable to sleep. As dawn painted the sky in watercolor pinks and golds, she found herself wandering the penthouse's upper level. The steel shutters had retracted, revealing floor-to-ceiling windows that caught the sunrise. A glass-walled room drew her attention. Inside, violins hung on climate-controlled displays, some gleaming with fresh lacquer, others showing their age in elegant wear. Each one had been lovingly restored, their wounds mended with expert care. She recognized the work of a perfectionist, someone who understood that healing took time and patience. Behind her, Dante's voice carried from the hallway, low and tense. The ledger was audited 6 months ago. Check who signed off. A pause. No, I need the exact date Rocco accessed those accounts. My father's empire may have been built on blood money, but at least he kept clean books. Lily's breath caught. She knew about keeping clean books. Her father had been a forensic auditor, notorious for his ethical standards and attention to detail. Before his death, he'd been working on a case involving LV, Dante said into his phone. The initials on the final audit. Find out. Everything. The same initials that had been on her father's briefcase, the one that disappeared the night of the car accident that killed him. Lily's hands pressed against the cool glass, steadying herself as pieces started falling into place. The random attack in the alley, the motorcycle following her, the drive-by shooting. Maybe none of it had been random at all. A shadow fell across the displays. Dante stood in the doorway, his phone still in hand, watching her with unreadable eyes. Morning light caught the angles of his face, softening them, making him look almost vulnerable. "Beautiful, aren't they?" he said, nodding to the violins. "Each one has its own voice once you know how to listen." Lily traced her fingers along the glass. "How long does it take to restore one completely?" "Months, sometimes years. You can't rush healing." He moved closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. "The trick is knowing which pieces need to be replaced and which just need to be strengthened." His words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Outside, the city was waking up, unaware of the night's violence. Inside this glass sanctuary, surrounded by instruments that had been broken and made whole again, Lily felt something shift in her understanding of the man beside her. He wasn't just the brutal enforcer who had saved her in the alley. He was also the craftsman who spent hours piecing together shattered things, who made her tea exactly right, whose hands shook when they touched her skin. The contradiction should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel less alone. Lily stood in the glass-walled music room, sunlight warming her shoulders. "I heard you on the phone. LV. Those were my father's initials." Dante didn't deflect. "Yes, I looked into your background after the attack. Lawrence Voss, forensic auditor. He died 2 years ago." "A stroke, they said." Lily's fingers curled against her palm. "But you found something else, didn't you? Your father flagged irregular accounts during an audit 8 years ago. Money that disappeared, then resurfaced in shell companies my half-brother Rocco used for embezzlement." Dante moved closer, but kept enough distance to not crowd her. "I swear to you, I didn't orchestrate the attack in the alley, but finding you there, it wasn't coincidence." Lily wrapped her arms around herself. "So I'm what? Collateral damage in a family feud?" "You're someone I'm protecting," his voice hardened. "Rocco's using those funds to destabilize my territory. The ledger could shut him down." "Stop." Lily held up a hand. "If I'm staying here, we need boundaries. First, complete honesty about risks. No lies by omission." "Agreed." "Second, I need to learn to defend myself. Real training, not just panic buttons." Dante nodded. "I'll introduce you to Mara. She's ex-military, handles close protection." An hour later, Lily stood in the penthouse gym with Mara, a compact woman with sharp eyes and efficient movements. "3 moves," Mara said. "Master these first. When someone grabs you from behind," she demonstrated slowly, "stomp the instep hard, follow with elbow to solar plexus, then throat strike to escape." They practiced until Lily's muscles burned, Mara correcting her form with brief, precise instructions. Again, make it muscle memory. By lunch, Lily could execute the sequence smoothly. Teresa brought a light meal to the sunroom. Fresh bread, cold cuts, fruit arranged with artistic care. Lily's phone buzzed with a text from her landlord. "The super found my door lock destroyed," she said, showing Dante the message. He read it, jaw tightening. "I'll have it repaired today, and I can arrange month-to-month storage for your belongings. You choose what comes here, what stays there. No permanent decisions without your consent." The consideration in that offer caught her off guard. He was giving her options, not dictates. Afternoon sun slanted across the marble floors when Dante found her reading in the music room. "There's a charity gala tonight. Black tie event that doubles as a syndicate meeting. My absence would be noted." "You need to go." Lily marked her place in the book. "I need you with me." He held her gaze. "As the woman under my protection, your presence sends a message. That I'm yours?" A challenge in her voice. "That you're safeguarded. There's a difference." Lily considered the implications. Being seen publicly with him would cement her position, both protection and target. "If I agree, we leave the moment I say encore." "No questions asked." He took her hand, pressed his lips to her knuckles once, not claiming, but promising. The touch was brief, formal, yet it sent warmth cascading through her chest. When she returned to her suite, a black gown lay across the bed, its fabric catching light like liquid shadow. Teresa stood nearby, ready to help with final preparations for a night that would mark Lily's official entry into Dante's dangerous world. The dress seemed to whisper secrets as Lily ran her fingers along the silk. Simple, elegant, with a high neck that would hide the bruises from the alley attack. Dante had chosen well. Or more likely, Teresa had guided his choice. Either way, it spoke of consideration for her comfort and dignity. "The car will be ready in 2 hours," Teresa said, laying out subtle jewelry and a pair of low heels. "Would you like help with your hair?" Lily nodded, sinking into the chair at the vanity. As Teresa's skilled fingers worked through her curls, she caught glimpses of herself in the mirror. Someone familiar, yet changed. Not a victim, not a possession, but a woman choosing her path forward. Her father had chosen his path too, she realized. Following paper trails, flagging suspicious accounts, refusing to look away from corruption. Had he known the danger? Had he faced it anyway, armed with nothing but integrity and careful documentation? The memory of him, gentle, principled, unshakable in his ethics, steadied her. She could be both safe and strong, protected but not powerless. Dante was offering tools for both. Mara's combat training, Teresa's quiet guidance, his own unwavering support, bounded by her conditions. From the window, she watched the city shift into evening colors. Somewhere out there, answers about her father's death lay hidden in ledgers and shell companies. Tonight she would step into the world of the man who might help her find them. Teresa finished with her hair, stepping back to survey her work. There, simple but striking. The elegant knot at her nape would stay secure through whatever the night brought. Like everything in this new life, it was both beautiful and practical, ready for both a waltz and a swift escape. Dante prowled the perimeter of his penthouse, checking security feeds one final time before they departed for the gala. His tuxedo made the lethal grace of his movements even more apparent. "Come here," he said softly, beckoning Lily closer. She approached, the black silk of her gown whispering against marble floors. "Turn around." She did, and his fingers brushed her nape as he tucked a nearly invisible earbud into her hairline. The touch sent shivers down her spine. "Direct link to security and me," he explained. "Now this." He held up a delicate silver bracelet. "Tracking device. Your choice to wear it." Lily extended her wrist without hesitation. "Yes." His fingers were warm as he fastened the clasp. "There are 4 exits from the main ballroom." He showed her blueprints on a tablet. "North emergency stairs, kitchen corridor, service elevator, and main doors. My team has all covered." The ride to the gala thrummed with unspoken tension. Lily watched city lights blur past the bulletproof glass, while Dante's presence filled the space beside her with contained heat. "What's your favorite piece to teach?" he asked suddenly. "Bach Partita in D minor," she smiled. "The Allemande. It requires such precise control but flows like water when mastered." "Ah," his eyes softened. "I listen to Vivaldi before difficult decisions. The 4 seasons, winter. Something about the structure brings clarity." The admission felt intimate, a glimpse behind his armor. Before she could respond, they arrived at the venue, all gleaming marble and crystal chandeliers. Inside, Lily watched Dante transform. To rivals and associates, he was Arctic steel, Kajdi Pohib calculated for maximum impact. But when he looked at her, that ice melted into molten intensity. They were seated for dinner when a capo at their table made a crude remark about pretty new toys. Without changing expression or raising his voice, Dante reached under the tablecloth. A sharp crack, followed by the man's muffled curse. "Apologize to the lady," Dante said pleasantly, still applying pressure to the broken finger. "My deepest regrets," the capo ground out. Lily sipped her water, maintaining perfect composure while her heart raced. This was Dante, protector and predator in one dangerous package. When the orchestra struck up a waltz, he led her to the dance floor. His hand settled warm at her back, maintaining a respectful distance between their bodies. "Remember," he murmured near her ear. "Say encore, and we leave immediately." She nodded, letting him guide her through the steps. Despite his deadly reputation, he moved with fluid grace, making her feel weightless. The attack came during dessert. Lily saw the flash of movement first, a server reaching beneath his jacket. Before she could cry out, Dante was moving. He spun, catching the attacker's wrist as the blade slashed out. In 3 precise movements, he disarmed and disabled the would-be assassin, keeping his body between Lily and danger the entire time. Screams erupted around them. Dante's security team converged, whisking them toward a service corridor while chaos erupted in the ballroom. In the limo, Lily noticed the dark stain spreading on Dante's white shirt. "You're hurt." Shallow slice, nothing vital. But his jaw was tight with pain. She grabbed the first aid kit stored under the seat, pressing clean gauze to the wound. Her hands came away red. Dante caught them in his, twining their fingers together despite the blood. "Cristo," he swore softly. "I'll see the doctor the moment we're home, I promise." The city blurred past as they sped toward the penthouse, their joined hands resting on his thigh. Lily's heart still pounded from the attack, but another emotion threaded through her fear. Concern for this complex man who wielded both violence and tenderness with equal skill. The tracking bracelet glinted on her wrist, catching the passing streetlights. Like everything about their situation, it represented both protection and constraint. Yet she'd chosen to wear it, just as she'd chosen to attend the gala. Dante's thumb traced slow circles on her palm, grounding her in the present moment. Despite the blood and chaos they'd left behind, she felt oddly safe. The same hands that had broken a man's finger and disarmed a killer now held hers with exquisite gentleness. Through the earbud, she could hear his security team, coordinating their route home, ensuring no one had followed. The soft Italian curses from the front seat suggested Teresa would be displeased about the bloodstains on Dante's custom tuxedo. "The Bach partita," Dante said suddenly, his voice rough with pain but steady. "Play it for me sometime?" "Once you're healed," she agreed, pressing fresh gauze to his side. He exhaled slowly. "I have a Stradivari in the music room. Restored it myself last year. Perfect for Bach." The promise of future music hung between them as the limo glided through darkened streets. Lily kept pressure on his wound, while Dante's fingers remained interlaced with her free hand, neither willing to let go. The elevator whispered up to the penthouse, Dante's arm tight around Lily's waist as she helped support his. "Wait!" His white shirt was stained crimson, but his steps remained steady. "No hospital," he ordered when Teresa suggested it. "Too exposed. Call Dr. Chen." The house doctor arrived within 15 minutes, setting up an improvised medical station in Dante's study. The leather chairs were pushed aside, replaced by bright surgical lights and sterile equipment. "I need an assistant," Dr. Chen said, glancing between Teresa and Lily. "I'll help." Lily stepped forward, surprising herself. Her hands had stopped shaking, and the precise motor control that made her an excellent violinist might prove useful here. Dante's eyes met hers as she helped ease off his jacket and shirt. The wound curved along his ribs, shallow but long, requiring multiple stitches. As Dr. Chen cleaned the area, Dante barely flinched, his gaze fixed on Lily. "Hold here," Dr. Chen instructed, guiding Lily's fingers to keep pressure on the gauze. "Good. Steady hands." While the doctor prepared sutures, Dante spoke softly, his voice rough. "I was 8 when I learned about power, or rather the lack of it." Lily looked up, sensing the weight of what he was about to share. "My mother borrowed money from the wrong people. When she couldn't pay..." His jaw tightened. "I watched them kill her, stood there powerless, while they made an example." "Dante," Lily whispered, her free hand finding his. "I swore that day I'd never be powerless again. Built everything you see to keep that promise." He squeezed her fingers. "But power without purpose is just violence. I needed rules, lines I wouldn't cross." Dr. Chen began stitching, but Dante continued as if he couldn't stop now that he'd started. "When I saw you in that alley, something shifted. For the first time in years, I acted on instinct, not calculation." The confession hung in the air between them as Dr. Chen finished the last stitch. Once bandaged, Dante dismissed the doctor and Teresa, leaving them alone in the study's warm lamplight. "There's something else you should know," he said, voice low. "Since you've been here, I've been sleeping in the hallway, outside your door." Lily's breath caught. "What?" "Just listening to you breathe, knowing you're safe." He looked almost vulnerable in the soft light. "I moved a chair there the first night. Couldn't bear to be further away." The admission drew her closer, like gravity. His hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb tracing her jawline. Lily leaned in, heart thundering, their lips inches apart. A sharp vibration broke the moment. Dante's phone lit up with an encrypted message. His expression shifted instantly, warmth crystallizing into something dangerous as he read. "Rocco," he growled. "He's made a deal with the Narvaez cartel, using the embezzled money to buy their muscle." His fingers flew across the screen, issuing rapid orders. "Watch the ports. Check every warehouse from the river to the industrial district. I want eyes on every known Narvaez associate. Lily could almost see the wall coming down between them as Dante shifted into strategic mode. But when he looked at her again, a softness remained. You should rest, he said quietly. Mara will stay on watch. I won't have you witness what comes next. She wanted to protest, but exhaustion was already pulling at her. The adrenaline crash from the gala attack left her drained. Mara appeared at the door, professional as always. Your room is secure, Miss Voss. Lily let herself be guided upstairs, but paused at her door. Your stitches? Will heal, Dante assured her. Sleep now, Tesoro. In her room, the city hummed beyond the bulletproof glass. Generators droned steadily from nearby buildings, creating a white noise that should have been soothing. But Lily lay awake, processing everything. The attack, Dante's confession, the almost kiss that still tingled on her lips. Sometime near dawn, exhaustion finally won. As she drifted off, she could hear the distant thump of helicopter rotors sweeping the river, searching for Rocco's shipments. And closer, just outside her door, she heard the soft shift of weight that told her Dante stood guard, one hand pressed to his injured side, listening to her breathe just as he had every night since she arrived. The morning would bring violence, she knew that now. But in this moment, suspended between sleep and waking, she felt strangely peaceful. The man in the hallway had shown her both his darkness and his light tonight. The killer who could break fingers without remorse was the same one who restored violins with loving care, who slept in a chair just to know she was safe. The helicopter sounds grew fainter, but Dante remained, a steady presence beyond her door. His soft footsteps paced the carpet, reminding her that despite his injury, despite the brewing war with his brother, his priority was here, keeping her protected, even from the shadows of his own world. Sunlight warmed Lily's face as she stirred from sleep, her body still heavy from the previous night's events. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mateo, her old neighbor from the building. You okay? Coffee sometime? Before she could reply, her eyes caught a silver breakfast tray on the bedside table. Steam curled from a coffee cup, and beside it lay a note in Dante's sharp, precise handwriting. Eat. Lesson at noon if you want. The thought of training after last night's chaos should have frightened her. Instead, she found herself looking forward to it. She showered, dressed in workout clothes Teresa had provided, and made her way to the gym precisely at noon. Dante was already there, his injured side showing no sign of weakness as he wrapped his hands. Ready? He asked, voice low and steady. They started with the basics Mara had shown her, but Dante added layers of complexity. An attacker won't give you time to think, he explained, demonstrating a defensive stance. Your body needs to react automatically. His hands were careful as they corrected her position. One at her elbow, another at her waist. The touch sent electricity through her skin. When she practiced a blocking move, her palm landed flat against his chest, feeling the strong, steady beat of his heart beneath the thin fabric of his shirt. Again, he murmured, and the word felt intimate in the quiet space. After an hour of drills, sweat gleaming on both their skin, Lily stepped back. I need water, she said, trying to slow her breathing. You're learning fast, Dante observed, passing her a bottle. Their fingers brushed, and neither pulled away immediately. Later, in the music room, Lily found herself drawn to one of his restored violins, a gorgeous German piece from the 1920s. She lifted it carefully, testing the strings. May I? Dante nodded, settling into a leather chair by the window. She played Bach's Partita No. 2 in D minor, losing herself in the familiar notes. When she glanced at Dante, his eyes were closed, tension melting from his shoulders. The man who'd broken fingers at the gala looked almost peaceful. Early afternoon found Dante called away to a strategy meeting on the lower floors. Lily seized the chance to ask Mara about retrieving some items from her apartment. We'll take 2 additional men, Mara decided, after consulting with security. Daylight only, quick in and out. The familiar walk to her building felt strange now, viewed through the lens of constant vigilance. Mara's eyes scanned everywhere, while the 2 guards, Marcus and Joel, maintained a careful perimeter. In the lobby, a familiar voice called out, Lily! Mateo stood there, holding a small bouquet of daisies. His boy-next-door smile was warm with relief. I've been so worried. The police wouldn't tell us anything after the shooting. I'm okay, Lily assured him, accepting the flowers. Just staying with a friend for a while. They chatted briefly about the building's gossip, Mateo's easy manner, almost making her forget the guards watching every move. Almost. Later, as she packed a few more clothes and her favorite books, her phone buzzed again. Mateo's text read, "If you need help getting out, I know people. Just say the word. No one should feel trapped." Something in the phrasing made her stomach twist. She deleted the message immediately and showed Mara. "Smart girl," Mara said, eyes narrowing. "Save his number, though. Information is power." She stepped away to make a call, speaking quietly to Nico. The penthouse felt safer when they returned, though Lily's nerves hummed with unease. She found Dante in his study at dusk, jacket off, scrolling through security feeds. "I need to tell you something," she said from the doorway. He looked up, instantly alert. "What's wrong?" "Mateo, my neighbor, he reached out, twice today." She explained about the flowers, the odd text about helping her escape. Dante's jaw ticked, but his voice remained controlled. "Thank you for telling me." He stood, coming around the desk. "The Narvaez cartel is planning something. I'd prefer you stay close tonight." "How can you be so calm about this?" she asked. "Because you came to me with it," he said simply. "Trust works both ways, Lily." She studied his face in the fading light. The man who'd killed without hesitation at the gala, who'd spent years building an empire on calculated violence, was letting her see his world piece by piece, trusting her with his vulnerabilities, even as he protected her from his enemies. "Will you play something?" he asked quietly. "Before the night gets complicated?" In the music room, as the city lights began to twinkle outside, Lily lifted the violin again. This time she chose Vivaldi, remembering his confession about listening before difficult decisions. Dante sat closer now, close enough that she could feel the heat of him as she played. The music filled the space between them, saying things neither was ready to voice aloud. About trust and power, about the way he watched her with hungry eyes that still asked permission, about how she should feel trapped here, but instead felt seen, protected, but not possessed. When the last note faded, Dante's phone lit up with messages. The night's work was beginning. But for a moment longer, he remained still, watching her lower the violin with the same care he used in his restoration work. "Stay in the secure areas tonight," he said finally, standing. "Mara will be outside your door." Lily nodded, understanding that whatever violence was coming, he was still trying to shield her from the worst of his world, even as that world drew closer, circling like wolves around their glass tower in the sky. The city lights blurred into streaks of neon through the penthouse windows as evening settled. Dante stood at his desk, jaw tight as he studied footage from the street cameras. On the screen, Mateo, Lily's seemingly harmless neighbor, shook hands with a known Narvaez lieutenant just 3 blocks from her building. He rubbed his temples, weighing options. Direct confrontation would feel like control, but could shatter the fragile trust building between them. No, she needed to see the truth herself. "Lily?" He found her in the music room, violin tucked away. "Would you join me for dinner? Teresa's making her signature pasta." The kitchen smelled of garlic and herbs as Teresa worked, her movements precise and practiced. Lily perched on a bar stool, while Dante leaned against the counter, sleeves rolled to his elbows. "In my world," he began carefully, "the most dangerous people aren't the ones holding guns. They're the ones who make you feel safe." He kept his tone conversational, educational, rather than accusatory. "Cartels especially love placing friendly assets. People who seem helpful, harmless. The neighbor who always waters your plants. The barista who remembers your order." Lily's hands tightened around her water glass. "Why are you telling me this?" Instead of answering directly, Dante pulled out his phone. "These were taken today and over the past week." He slid it across the counter, showing her time-stamped photos. Mateo meeting the same well-dressed man repeatedly. The final image showed money-changing hands. "That man works for the Narvaez cartel," Dante said quietly. "I'm showing you this not to control your decisions, but because you deserve to know who's really around you." Lily stared at the photos, color draining from her face. "I thought he was just being nice, checking on me after everything that happened." Her laugh was bitter. "I feel so stupid." "No." Dante's voice was firm. "You're not stupid. You're kind. They count on that." Teresa set plates before them, the pasta steaming. She squeezed Lily's shoulder once before retreating, a silent show of support. "I should have seen it." Lily pushed her food around. The convenient timing, the escape offer. "You did see it," Dante corrected. "You felt something was wrong and reported it immediately." "That's exactly right." They ate in thoughtful silence for a moment before planning their next move. If Matteo reached out again, Lily would engage normally, but forward everything to Nico for analysis. No confrontation, no changes in behavior that might tip their hand. Speaking of transparency, Dante said after dinner, leading her to his study, there's something else you should see. He retrieved an old ledger page from his safe, pointing to initials in the corner. Your father's handwriting. Lily traced the familiar marks. Where did you get this? When I looked into your background after the attack. He met her eyes directly. I won't apologize for ensuring your safety, but I will promise to stop investigating your private life unless it directly impacts your security. No more surprises. Thank you. She meant it. In his world of necessary lies, his honesty with her meant something. They spent the next few hours in comfortable quiet, Lily reading while Dante worked, the space between them easier now. Near midnight, her phone chimed with an anonymous message. Her breath caught as she opened the link. The footage showed her alley attack, but something was wrong. The editing made it look staged, Dante's men positioning themselves beforehand, the timing too perfect. A text followed. He wanted a reason to keep you. Ask yourself why. Her stomach dropped as she looked up at Dante, who was watching her with concerned eyes. The doctored video played again, twisting reality, trying to poison everything they'd built. But she remembered the real fear that night, the genuine surprise on Dante's face, the way his hands shook when he checked her for injuries. They're getting desperate, she said, handing him the phone. Trying to make me doubt you. Dante's expression was unreadable as he reviewed the footage. And do you? Doubt me? No. She surprised herself with how firmly she meant it. I know what really happened. I was there. Relief flickered across his face, gone so quickly she almost missed it. He started typing on his phone, presumably alerting Nico to trace the message source. The most effective lies, he said, contain a grain of truth. Yes, I wanted to protect you after that night, but not because I orchestrated it. His hands clenched. Because I know what happens when you're too late to save someone. The weight of his past, his murdered mother, years of powerlessness, hung between them. Lily understood suddenly that his protection wasn't just about her. It was about finally being strong enough to prevent what he couldn't before. Teresa appeared with fresh tea, her timing impeccable as always. The familiar ritual of preparing their cups helped settle Lily's nerves. Outside, the city hummed with late-night energy, while inside their fortified sanctuary, truth and lies waged their quiet war. We should have Nico monitor all incoming media, Dante said finally, then they'll try this again, different angles. Lily nodded, sipping her tea. The warmth helped ground her in reality, not the twisted version in that video, but here, now, with a man who'd shown her both his darkness and his careful attempts at light. The doctored footage played one more time in her mind, but this time she saw it clearly for what it was. Desperation from enemies who'd realized direct attacks wouldn't work. They were trying to break something they didn't understand. Trust built not on force or fear, but on choice and truth, even when that truth was difficult. The penthouse felt too quiet after the video, the city lights casting long shadows through the windows. Lily's hands trembled as she held up her phone, showing Dante the footage again. He watched with a face carved from stone, only the muscle ticking in his jaw betraying emotion. Rocco's fingerprints, he said finally. The editing, the timing, this is his work. She searched his face for any hint of deception, remembering how he'd appeared that night in the alley, the careful way he'd checked her for injuries. Tell me the truth. Did you orchestrate this? I will never hurt you. His voice was steady, absolute. No pleading, no manipulation. I can call in a third party to authenticate the original footage, someone neutral, with no ties to either side. The offer should have reassured her, but doubt had taken root. Everything felt suddenly unstable, like walking on shifting sand. I need some air, some space to think. He nodded once, respecting her request. Take Mara with you. The terrace air was cool against her flushed skin. Mara stood quietly nearby, giving her room to process while maintaining watchful guard. The city sprawled below, a maze of lights and shadows where truth and lies twisted together until you couldn't tell them apart. Her phone buzzed. Matteo. I can prove he set it up. I'm outside with evidence. Real proof, not doctored videos. Lily's heart raced. I want to meet him, she told Mara. 5 minutes in the lobby, you and 2 more guards present. Against protocol. Mara warned, but Lily was already moving toward the private elevator. 5 minutes, that's all, please! Mara called for backup, and they descended with 2 of Dante's most trusted men. The lobby was eerily quiet this late, security posted at every entrance. Marble floors gleamed under soft lighting, creating pools of shadow in the corners. Matteo slipped through the front doors, looking nervous and disheveled. He clutched a flash drive in his sweating hand. Lily, thank God. You need to see this. The van's tires screamed against pavement outside. Before anyone could react, smoke grenades crashed through the glass doors, spewing thick white clouds. Gunfire erupted as Narvaez's men poured in, faces masked. Contact! Mara shoved Lily behind a pillar, drawing her weapon. The crack of her pistol was deafening in the enclosed space. A bullet caught Mara in the shoulder. She stumbled but kept firing, blood darkening her suit jacket. The other guards returned fire, but the smoke made targeting impossible. Screams and breaking glass filled the air. Rough hands grabbed Lily from behind. She drove her elbow back like Mara had taught her, feeling cartilage crunch as she connected with someone's nose. But there were too many of them. Arms locked around her waist, lifting her off her feet as she kicked and fought. Got her, a voice shouted in Spanish. They dragged her toward the door, her shoes scraping marble. Through gaps in the smoke, she saw Mara trying to stand, one guard down and bleeding, the other still firing. The van's sliding door gaped open like a mouth. They threw her inside, and someone pressed a cloth over her face. The chemical smell made her head spin. Upstairs, Dante heard the alarm and ran to the security room. The monitors showed chaos, smoke, muzzle flashes, Lily being carried out struggling. The van's tires squealed as it accelerated away. He was already moving, Nico at his heels. In the lobby, the smoke was starting to clear. Mara pressed a hand to her shoulder wound, giving her report through gritted teeth. The flash drive lay abandoned on the floor, cracked from being stepped on during the fight. Dante picked it up and crushed it in his fist, plastic splintering. When he spoke to Nico, his voice could have frozen hell itself. Lock the city! We move now! The guards were already mobilizing, calling in teams to block bridges and tunnels. Medics rushed to help the wounded. Blood spread across the marble floor in slow rivers, mixing with broken glass that crunched under boots. Dante knelt beside Mara, who was fighting the medics trying to treat her. Sir, I failed. Report first, blame later. 6 shooters minimum, coordinated with Matteo's approach. They knew the rotation, the blind spots, she hissed as pressure was applied to her wound. They were waiting. Inside help, Nico confirmed, reviewing security feeds on his tablet. Someone disabled the exterior cameras 2 minutes before. The lobby was a war zone of shell. Casings and smoke residue. Dante's people moved with practiced efficiency, securing the scene, gathering evidence. But their boss stood utterly still, radiating a cold fury that made even hardened soldiers step carefully around him. He touched his earpiece. All units. The city goes dark. No one leaves without our eyes on them. Find that van. His next words carried the weight of absolute certainty. And clear kill orders on anyone who resists. The night air carried distant sirens as response teams deployed across the city. Inside the lobby, blood dried on marble floors while medics worked and tactical teams coordinated. But the real violence hadn't started yet. That would come with dawn, when Dante's wrath would paint the streets red. For now, he watched the security footage again, memorizing faces, movements, timing. Every detail would matter in the hunt to come. His expression promised retribution, not just for the attack, but for forcing Lily to doubt him, for using her compassion against her. They had taken what was his to protect, and there would be no mercy this time. The city's lights dimmed, sector by sector, as Dante's order rippled through his network. Power grids flickered, security gates dropped, and patrol boats cut dark waves across the river. His command center hummed with controlled chaos as teams deployed across every district. Port authorities locked down, Nico reported, fingers flying across 3 keyboards. Customs manifest incoming, traffic cams active on all bridges. Dante stood at the window, watching emergency lights pulse in the distance. His reflection showed a man carved from stone, only his eyes betraying the rage beneath. The wound in his side throbbed, a constant reminder of his failure to protect her. Sir! A junior lieutenant approached with a tablet. First bounty responses coming in. Street contacts report unusual truck movement near the industrial zone. Cross-reference with known Narvaez routes, Dante ordered, his voice glacial. He hadn't raised it once since the attack, making it all the more terrifying. Within an hour, they had names. 2 Narvaez truck drivers, brothers, who'd been running shipments for 3 years. Nico pulled up their financials, family connections, and daily routines in minutes. Their boss, Martinez, Keeps their families comfortable with payments through the Cayman Islands, Nico said, if those accounts suddenly emptied. Do it! Dante's command was soft but absolute. The drivers broke quickly once their children's private school tuition vanished and their mortgages defaulted simultaneously. One sobbed about his daughter's medical bills while confessing what he knew about Narvaez's transport patterns. But it wasn't enough. Dawn was approaching, and every minute felt like a knife in Dante's chest. He paced the command center, checking his phone obsessively for any message from Lily's captors. Then came the breakthrough. A customs agent known for looking the other way contacted one of Dante's intermediaries. He had information about a property purchase, a farm disguised as an orchard, recently acquired through shell companies linked to Narvaez. What's your price? Dante asked over a secured line. That weapons cache you seized last month, the one that officially doesn't exist. Done. Location first. The agent described a property 30 miles outside the city. Satellite imagery showed neat rows of apple trees surrounding a cluster of buildings. Too neat, too new. Thermal imaging confirms multiple guards, Nico reported. Regular patrol patterns, they're professionals. Dante studied the layout, already planning entry points and angles of fire. How many men can we have there in 20 minutes? 3 tactical teams, plus whatever muscle the Bratva loans us. They owe for that dock space last summer. The convoy assembled in underground garages across the city, converging on different routes to avoid attention. Dante rode in the lead SUV, body armor hidden under his suit jacket. The wound in his side screamed as he checked his weapons, but he barely felt it. In the pre-dawn darkness, he pulled out his phone. The screen's glow illuminated his face as he hit record. Lily! His voice was softer than anyone had heard it in hours. If you're watching this, I didn't make it back. But you're safe. That's what matters. He paused, collecting thoughts he'd never spoken aloud. I kept that chair outside your door because being near you made me want to be worthy of it. The violins in my workshop? They were always meant for your hands. I restored them hoping someday you'd play them and make something beautiful from what these hands have touched. He swallowed hard, the mask of the ruthless boss cracking just slightly. I love you. Not as a possession or a prize, but as the person who made me question everything I thought I knew about strength. About mercy? His fingers brushed the screen. Be safe, be free, and know that every choice I made was to give you that chance. The message sent to Nico with instructions for delivery only in case of his death. Dante tucked the phone away as the convoy's headlights cut through morning mist. Frost glittered on bare tree branches like scattered diamonds. 2 minutes, the driver murmured. They killed the engines 400 yards from the property's main gate. In the sudden silence, Dante could hear his own heartbeat. The wound in his side pulsed with each breath as he adjusted his tactical vest. Nico's voice came through his earpiece. Teams in position. Thermal shows 8 guards on patrol, 4 more inside the main building. No visual on the target yet. Dante checked his weapons one final time. The weight of his custom Beretta was familiar against his ribs, the backup piece at his ankle, a constant comfort. But it was the knife in his sleeve, the one that had saved Lily in that first alley encounter, that he touched last. I end this, he whispered, more prayer than promise, or I end. The trees loomed ahead, their branches stark against the lightening sky. Somewhere beyond them, Lily was waiting. Every second he delayed was another moment she might doubt he was coming, another moment for her captors to hurt her. The thought made his hands shake with suppressed fury. He stilled them by pure will, the way he had trained himself to do during delicate violin restorations. Precision now, violence later. Dawn was minutes away. Soon the operation would begin, and Dante would either bring Lily home or die trying. There was no middle ground, no negotiation possible. Narvaez had crossed a line that could only be answered with absolute force. In the last moments before action, Dante touched the violin calluses on his fingers, the ones that matched Lily's, a reminder of gentleness in the violence to come. Then he gave the signal, and the hunt began. The first hint of dawn seeped through the barn's weathered slats, painting stripes across Lily's face. Her head throbbed where they'd struck her during the grab, dried blood making her temple stick to her collar. The zip ties bit into her wrists, but she kept her breathing steady, just like Mara had taught her. Show no fear, study your surroundings. The young guard, Esteban, paced near her chair. Unlike the others, he'd slipped her water when no one was looking, whispered apologies when checking her restraints. Now he hovered close, voice barely audible. Senor Rocco comes at sunrise to collect his prize, I'm sorry. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. Lily's stomach clenched at Rocco's name, but she forced herself to focus. The chair beneath her had a slight wobble. Old wood, weakened joints. Testing the movement, she felt a nail head catch against the zip tie. Her violinist's fingers, strong from years of practice, began working the plastic against the metal. Outside, shapes moved through the misty orchard. Silent figures in tactical gear slipped between the trees like shadows. Dante's men, she knew, coming for her, coming for blood. The first shot cracked the dawn silence. Then hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions. Lily heard the distinctive sound of flashbangs, saw guards running past the barn windows. Through gaps in the wood, she caught glimpses of Dante moving with lethal grace, his custom Beretta leading the way. A bullet caught his arm, tearing fabric, drawing blood. But he didn't even flinch. The zip tie finally gave way enough for her to slip one hand free. When a guard burst through the barn door, shouting orders, Lily stayed still, waiting. The moment he turned, she drove her elbow up into his throat, just as Mara had shown her. He dropped, gasping, and his knife clattered across the floor. Esteban reached for his weapon, hesitating. In that pause, Lily dove for the fallen blade, slicing through her ankle restraints. The young guard backed away, hands raised. "I never wanted," he started. Smoke began rolling under the doors. Through a knothole, Lily caught fragments of radio chatter, Dante's team using their call signs. She pressed her tracking bracelet against the gap, moving it in a deliberate pattern. 3 short flashes, 2 long. Here, here, here. The side door exploded inward. Dante filled the frame, tactical gear dark with other men's blood, eyes scanning until they found her. No words needed, just that electric connection, that certainty. He moved, she moved, perfectly synchronized as he got her behind a hay baler for cover. Bullets sparked off metal. Somewhere outside, engines roared to life. Reinforcements coming. Through the chaos, Lily saw Esteban take a round to the shoulder, spinning him into the open. Without thinking, she darted out, grabbed his collar, and dragged him behind their cover. Dante was already moving, clearing their escape route with controlled bursts of fire. "Stay on my 6, he commanded, voice rough with smoke and fury. 2 meters back, no more. They advanced through the barn's shadowy interior, Lily helping Esteban stumble along. Every few steps, Dante would pause, check angles, eliminate threats with surgical precision. His wounded arm left red droplets on the hay-strewn floor, but his aim never wavered. The air grew thick with cordite and wood dust. Lily's ears rang from the gunfire, but she forced herself to stay focused, just as she did during difficult performances. Watch, listen, move. The skills that served her music now kept her alive. A guard appeared in the hayloft above. Dante dropped him before Lily could shout a warning. Another tried to flank them. She spotted his shadow and kicked a bucket into his path, giving Dante the split second he needed. They were almost to the back exit when an explosion rocked the building's foundation. Beams groaned overhead. Dante immediately shifted position, putting his body between Lily and any falling debris. His eyes met hers, in the dusty half-light, and for just a moment she saw past the tactical genius, past the Mafia boss, to the man who kept vigil outside her door. Fresh gunfire erupted outside, Dante's reinforcements engaging the Narvaez backup. The barn's interior strobed with muzzle flashes. Through it all, Lily kept moving, kept breathing, kept her hand tight on Esteban's arm as the young guard fought to stay conscious. Dante reached the back door first, checking the field beyond through a crack. His profile was sharp against the growing dawn, jaw set with the same intensity she'd seen when he worked on his violins. The same perfect focus, but now turned to destruction instead of creation. 10 seconds, he murmured, timing the patrol patterns. His free hand found hers in the shadows, squeezed once. Ready? Lily nodded, adjusting her grip on Esteban. The guard's blood was hot against her fingers, his breathing ragged, but he'd shown her kindness, and she wouldn't leave him to Rocco's mercy. More shots outside, closer now. The barn's timbers creaked ominously. Dawn painted the sky in shades of steel and smoke, and somewhere in the distance, sirens began to wail. Lily took one final breath, steadying herself like she did before stepping onto stage. The next few seconds would determine everything. She looked at Dante, the man who'd saved her in an alley, who restored broken things with gentle hands, who'd brought an army to find her. His eyes held hers, promising without words that they would make it through this together. The gunfire outside reached a crescendo. Dante's radio crackled with position reports. Morning light spilled through the cracks in the barn wall, turning the smoke into ghostly ribbons. They waited in that suspended moment, muscles tense, breath held, ready to move as one when Dante gave the signal. The gunfire tapered to scattered pops, then silence. Lily's ears rang in the sudden quiet. Dawn painted the apple trees in watercolor grays, frost glinting on the branches. Dante kept her close as they moved between the rows, Esteban supported between them. Engine sounds approached, not the rough growl of tactical vehicles, but the purr of luxury cars. 3 black Mercedes rolled up the dirt road, kicking up dust that caught the early light. Rocco stepped out of the middle one, flanked by men in cartel tactical gear. His designer suit looked obscene against the pastoral backdrop. "Brother!" Rocco called out, spreading his arms like this was a family reunion. "Quite the mess you've made of my orchard." They were 30 yards from a metal cold storage shed, 2 exposed. Dante angled them toward cover, but Narvaez's men emerged from between the trees, cutting off escape routes. "Did you enjoy my little video edit?" Rocco's smile was all teeth. "The look on your face when you thought your pet violinist might doubt you, priceless." Lily's stomach churned. The doctored footage of the alley attack. She should have known better than to let it shake her faith in Dante. "The ledger was a nice touch," Rocco continued, circling closer. "Just enough of Daddy's initials to bait Dante's famous conscience. And Matteo," he chuckled. Such a friendly face, wasn't he? The perfect hook. Dante's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice controlled. "You used her father's memory to manipulate us both. Dear old Dad died with other people's secrets." Rocco's eyes fixed on Lily. "Just like you might, unless you learn to heal properly. You're nothing but a pretty leash around my brother's neck." Dante shifted, ready to end this. But then he did something that stopped Lily's breath. He turned to her and offered a choice. "I can finish this now," he said softly. "Or we walk away, and I step down from the crown. You decide." The weight of empire balanced on her answer. Lily looked at him. This dangerous man who'd killed to protect her, who restored broken things with infinite patience, who gave her power even now. "I stay," she said clearly. "Not because you claimed me, but because I choose you." Something sparked in Dante's eyes, pride, love, fierce joy. But before he could move, Lily spotted it, the telltale flaw in Rocco's scheme. "The ledger signature," she called out, making Rocco turn. "The loop on the G is wrong. My father never wrote that way." That split second of distraction was all Dante needed. He moved like a striking snake, disarming Rocco with brutal efficiency. Behind them, Nico and the tactical team emerged from cover, taking down the remaining Narvaez men in coordinated strikes. Rocco lay in the frost-tipped grass, Dante's boot on his chest, gun aimed at his head. The moment stretched like wire about to snap. Lily held her breath, remembering all the violence she'd seen in Dante's world. But then Dante lowered the weapon. "You're exiled," he said, voice carrying across the orchard. "Under blood oath, return and you die. This is your one chance to live." Rocco's eyes widened in disbelief. This wasn't the brother he knew, the one who answered every challenge with ruthless force. This was something new. "Why?" Rocco spat. Dante's gaze found Lily's. "Because there are lines I won't cross anymore. Because mercy can be stronger than vengeance." Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Dawn had broken fully now, painting the sky in pale gold. Medical teams were already tending to Esteban and the other wounded. The night's violence was ending, but something else was beginning. Dante crossed to where Lily stood, gathered her in his arms with infinite gentleness, his forehead pressed to hers, breath warm against her skin. "You're mine. Forever," he whispered. Then added the words that changed everything. "If you want me." The choice was hers again. Lily looked up at him, this man who'd moved armies to find her, who'd changed his nature for her, who gave her power even in surrender. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. "Yes," she said. "Yes." The morning light caught in his eyes, turning them to amber. Around them, teams worked efficiently, securing the scene, treating the wounded, establishing a perimeter. But in that moment, they were alone in their own world, where violence gave way to tenderness, where broken things could be restored. Dante's thumb brushed the cut on her temple, his touch feather-light. "Let's get you home." Home. Not just the penthouse now, but wherever they were together. Lily leaned into his embrace, feeling the solid strength of him, the steady beat of his heart. The sirens grew louder, but she wasn't afraid anymore. She had chosen her path, eyes wide open, knowing both the darkness and the light in the man who held her. The sun climbed higher, warming the frost on the apple trees until it melted away like the last traces of night. A new day was dawning, and with it, a new way forward. one they would forge together between shadow and light, violence and mercy, power and love. Dante kept his arm around her as they walked toward the waiting vehicles, his touch both possessive and protective. Behind them, teams efficiently erased evidence of the night's violence, while ahead, the city skyline shimmered in the morning haze. They had survived the darkness, and now they would face the light. Together, by choice, in perfect balance. 2 weeks slipped by like notes from Lily's violin, each day a measured progression toward something sweeter. The penthouse settled into a different rhythm, one marked by healing rather than danger. Dante's wounds mended under strict medical supervision, though he grumbled about the house doctors hovering. The bullet graze on his arm left a thin scar that Lily traced each morning, reminding herself how close she'd come to losing him. His side injury from the gala required more careful attention, but even that healed cleanly. Mara's recovery proved more challenging. The smoke grenades had done some lung damage, and the bullet hit had been serious. But she was already demanding to return to duty, going stir-crazy in the private medical facility where Dante had arranged the best care. Lily visited her daily, bringing books and conversation, strengthening their bond beyond guard and principle into true friendship. The police liaison accepted Lily's statement about Narvaez without pressing for details about Dante's involvement. They were more interested in Mateo, who'd turned state's evidence in exchange for witness protection. Sometimes Lily wondered where he'd ended up, hoping he'd found a way to build an honest life. Rocco's exile proceeded smoothly, Dante's network ensuring he reached a distant country where he'd be closely monitored. The message was clear: mercy had limits, and second chances came with invisible chains. But the real changes happened in quieter ways. Dante delegated daily syndicate operations to his most trusted captains, focusing instead on building legitimate enterprises. He spent hours in meetings with financial advisors, converting shadowy empires into legal ventures. His hands, once mainly instruments of violence, now moved through paperwork with the same precise care he used on his restored violins. Lily threw herself into creating the Music Foundation, channeling seized funds through proper channels to support young musicians. The irony didn't escape her. Blood money transformed into beautiful sound. But wasn't that what they were both doing? Taking darkness and reshaping it into light? Today marked another transformation as they visited her old building together. The storage unit held the remnants of her former life: books, kitchen items, winter clothes, old photos. Dante stood back, letting her sort through everything without pressure. "This comes," she said, holding up a faded quilt her grandmother had made. "And these books. But the rest can go to the women's shelter on 4th Street. Dante nodded, signaling his men to arrange the donations. He watched her with quiet pride as she moved purposefully through the space, claiming what mattered and releasing what didn't. Every choice was hers alone. That evening, the foundation sponsored its first children's recital. The community center auditorium hummed with excitement, parents clutching programs, kids in their best clothes fidgeting with instrument cases. Dante sat in the back row, flanked by discreet security, his presence unremarkable to anyone who didn't know to look for power and stillness. Lily took the conductor's podium with grace, her black dress catching the stage lights. She lifted her hands, and silence fell. The first notes rose tentatively, then gained confidence under her guidance. Watching her, Dante's usual mask softened into something rarely seen, a private smile that transformed his whole face. When the last piece ended, parents surged forward to hug their children. Lily moved through the crowd, offering praise and encouragement. She didn't notice Dante approaching until he touched her elbow. "Walk with me?" he asked softly. She followed him to the empty practice room where she'd first taught him about violin restoration, the familiar scent of rosin and wood polish wrapped around them. Dante reached into his jacket, not for a weapon this time, but a small box. Inside nestled a ring unlike any other, a delicate band of gold protecting a sliver of violin maple, its grain catching the light like trapped music. "I promise," he said, voice rough with emotion, "that my darkness will never again touch your light. Your world will be filled with music, not violence. Say you'll build it with me." Lily's hands trembled as she touched the ring. "Yes," she whispered. "Always, yes." Later that night, in the penthouse's glass-walled music room, Lily lifted her violin. The piece she chose was the one that first made Dante's eyes close in peace. Bach's Partita No. 2, its notes pure and clean in the quiet air. For once, Dante wore no weapons. He stood behind her, palm resting over her heart, feeling its steady rhythm. In the glass, their reflection told a story: how far they'd come, how much they'd survived, how love could forge something new from broken pieces. The city lights sparkled beyond the windows, and the night held only music. No gunfire, no sirens, no threats in the shadows. Just the sweet song of strings and the promise of tomorrow, sealed with a kiss that tasted of hope. They had found their balance, the monster and the musician, the protector and the healer, the shadow and the light. Together, they would build a world where beauty drowned out violence, where love conquered fear, where every ending opened into a new beginning.